Hello everybody and welcome to the next episode of Flight Training the Way I See It, Opinion and News with your host here, Mike Shiflett, from Miami Beach, Florida today. So we've got a few things on the plate today. In the video newsletter, the podcast, we're going to talk at October 2023, that's what we're talking about and what happened in that month. And we start off with E6B Showdown, that's something I'm promoting. Then the latest from the NAFI Summit, where I was last week. For a couple days. I went up to Lakeland and went to the first ever NAFI Summit, their inaugural session, National Association of Flight Instructors. So I've got some takeaways from that. So we were there. Then we're going to talk about SAFE, Site of Aviation and Flight Educators, and their new their new Facebook page, which is a mentoring program, a mentoring Facebook page, and it's live now. So we're going to talk about that and why you should be connected to that. Okay, there's that. And then the fact that another thing we'll talk about is the fact that I did not get inducted into the Flight Instructor Hall of Fame. Talk about that. And then should you train for your CFI in a round gauge or a glass cockpit is the other thing I wanted to touch on. And that's sort of the things we're going to talk about in this month's Flight Training the Way I See It. And so we'll just start off with the E6B Showdown. Okay, so you know I'm not a fan of that thing. Never have been, never will. I could be convinced otherwise, but I doubt it. And so that means that I'm not going to be convinced, right? That's what that means. I just kind of said it, didn't I? All right, well, let's talk about what happened. So something interesting happened. There was an article that came out in AOPA's online magazine, and it was by Jill Talman, who's an editor and a very good writer there at AOPA. Hats off to you, Jill. And so I read those things all the time, and it was about the utility or use of the E6B and so on. And then so I started reading it because it's like, let's see if that's going to tickle my funny bone today. And about halfway through it, I recognized I'm in it. So she goes, there's a vocal minority of people who think the E6B is obsolete. Then she goes on to mention who that vocal minority is, which is me, right? And I don't think I'm the minority. I don't think so, but we'll see. We're going to see on this. It's going to be something fun at the end. So hang on for a minute. Let's ride the lightning together, shall we? Right? Okay, so anyway, so she wrote the article and said, basically quoted me directly because it's something I have said and mean, and I've said it this way for a long time. I basically said, I'm on a mission to point out the E6B for exactly what it is, a rite of passage, and it robs people of valuable training time. That's what I say. I say we could be using this time that now is insisted upon by certain DPEs to use this tool. It's a tool. It's not a philosophy. It's not a this is how you learn to navigate. It's the only way you could ever learn to navigate. They don't use the E6B on boats, They didn't use them for celestial navigation. There's a lot of things it didn't need. Grid navigation doesn't need an E6B. So you can learn the principles of navigation quite easily with just basic arithmetic, tiny bit of geometry. And when I mean geometry, I just mean looking at angles. I don't even mean anything more complicated than that even, right? So we can learn all the principles of navigation we need and not focus on the tool. That's what I'm getting at, okay? So anyway, that's what the article was about and the utility of the thing and various things. Then there's always comments. So of course there are comments, right? And so that's the thing I was bringing out I didn't know the article was coming out. I was not told of it, but I wasn't unhappy to see it. I thought, well, anybody's going to represent the thumbs down E6B crowd, it would be me. I'm sort of the mouthpiece for that, that caucus, right, so to speak. So anyway, so what I thought about after I read this, and you can read it too, it's Jill Talman. You can go to Google or AOPA and look for Jill Talman's articles, and you'll see it under the E6B. It'll be pretty obvious when the thing E6B is in there. By the way, we have something funny we do now at CFI Bootcamp, and that's we're not allowed to say E6B. So why? That's because like theater. So I have a good friend who's in theater. He's a pretty famous musical director. In fact, I just finished going up to Chicago to see his new musical called A Wonderful World. It closed yesterday. It was in New Orleans, then Chicago. I'm going off on a tangent here, but you're maybe going to like it. It's going to go to Broadway in September. So anyway, wonderful production. And anyway, they have in theater, they have a similar kind of thing. They don't mention a particular Shakespeare play with the witches in it. Because if they say the word, then it brings them bad luck. So I'm kind of doing that I just call it the thing, that thing. Right? So that's what we're doing now. So you should get some good humor out of that. And let's see if we can get get a contingency of people who just always call it the thing. That's it. Or you can use the thing if you want to, or what is that thing, right? That's what I like about it. So anyway, what I'm on about here is, as I was like going through this whole thing, I was like, there's a story here that could be told in a really entertaining and fun way. And the other thing I saw at the NAFI Summit sort of tie this together was I heard John and Martha King speak. And, they're, I don't know what I have to say, but I'm not a big fan of the products because they're kind of clunky and kind of dated, and they're getting better. But anyway, but them I like. I think they're wonderful people. They've got a great sense of business to them. They've got a good sense of humor. They were always are, and still to this day, very approachable. I have nothing but good things to say about that side. It's just like the rote memorization and for a test that I didn't care for. That's how they started, though, so, good on them. But anyway, when they were there, I was thinking, there's an opportunity here to be like them, and sort of like, let's come to the table and let's have a showdown, right? Because John did that with Rod Machado about the ACS, and I thought it was a great thing. Entertaining, fun, right? That's what a lot of flying should be. When you have these raw moments where there's this thing in your way and you can't get past the thing to get to the good stuff like ForeFlight and other sorts of things you're going to use. And by the way, the people who say you need the E6B for, I flew the thing. I said, okay. Anyway, I flew my Citabria for years and it didn't have anything in it but a compass. That's it. And I didn't have to make calculations in flight because I used just basic rule of thumb, and I used a basic idea that if I took off and I had a heading and a time to my checkpoints or destination that I would be able to navigate using a combination of pilotage and that heading and very good landmarks. I made sure that was the case, and then that would be okay. And so I learned those TLAR skills, it's called. That looks about right. When you take off, the GPS says 200 and the heading's supposed to be 020, you should have kind of known that already. So I think a lot of this argument about you have to use the thing, and the thing, by the way, is a circular slide rule. And so it's subject to errors, in particular, because the 10 on the unit means 0.001, 0.011, 10, 100, 1 million. I mean, anything with a 1 in it that's rounded by a 0 at the end. So it's subject to some errors in interpretation. So then, anyway, but it's useful. Maybe, I guess. I was also fond of saying the very pilot examiners that insist upon you using it on a test, right? They're the ones who don't yet appreciate the fact that you're going to learn this thing, and then you're going to just go buy ForeFlight or something like that, and you're going to teach it to yourself, and you're not going to have the benefit of 10 hours or so of training from me or someone like Gary Reeves, or someone who really understands this, and gives you all the backup strategies. And our backup strategies are such that if all of our backup strategies fail, it would have been equivalent, it would be more likely that you were using paper and an E6B and the door flew open and all that stuff flew out. That would be more likely than the chances of our backup strategies not working for you. How do you like that? Bing! Did I ring the bell for you? Yeah, okay. Anyway, the ones who insist upon that rob us of time, and that's not fair, and it's not right. But yet those same DPEs, when they go to the hospital for some minor operation and the anesthesiologist comes in and says, hi, we're going to talk, what we're going to do, we're going to hook you up to a brainwave monitor, and then the DP goes like, what happens if that fails? What, does that batteries in it or something? And I said, well, I got this. No, I just like ether. Just give me ether. I'm sure they're going to want the latest, the greatest technology when they're in the hospital, but when they're in the airplane, can't get past it, right? So anyway, that's my last bit on. So I want to have a showdown. And what I want to have a showdown on is I want to find someone who believes in their heart of hearts. When you're going to argue with someone like politics, really, you don't want to argue with somebody who just has a passing thing about it. You want someone who believes it, right? And then you believe it too, your side. And then you have a real discussion and a real argument. And so I want to have that. I want to do that as a live event. I don't want anything scripted. I just want to do it because I'm going to win. So anyway, maybe not. Who knows? I may not win. But I'm good with the result. And I think after the event, me and whoever the contender is, or group, I'll argue a group as well, we'll go down to the watering hole and then lick our wounds and then just carry on, right? And then we'll have given at least our industry something to chew on. And I think that needs to happen. Something like that needs to happen. I say this dog's had its day. So that'd be my very beginning opening premise. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. We spent 10 minutes on that. Ooh, golly. But you can tell I'm all fired up about it, right? All right, the latest from NAFI. Okay, let's look at that. I'll look at my notes here for as we go. But NAFI was in Lakeland, Florida. Oh, God, not another trip to Lakeland. October 24th through 26th. I got there in a very unique way. So we have a new high-speed train that runs between Miami and Orlando. And from Orlando to Lakeland is about 50 miles. It's in between Orlando and Tampa. And so I was able to take the Brightline high-speed train 3.5 hours from Miami, which is close to where I am. It's the other side of I'm on an island, so it's on the mainland. But it only takes about 12 minutes to get there. This train station is incredibly nice. It's all modern. The trains and everything is super cool. So anyway, I was able to take that and get all the way up to Orlando, Wi-Fi, cell service the whole way. And you could buy food and drinks, or if you're in a premium, you get all that for free. So anyway, there's that. Then I took an Uber over there. So, did it work out financially? Probably not, but I didn't have to drive. That drive is like, terrible. And anyway, Lakeland. If you don't know what Lakeland is now, it used to be Lakeland, lakes everywhere, kind of farm. Now, no. It's warehouses and big tractor trailers everywhere as far as the eye can see. And if you go in there next time, so if you go into Sun and Fun, which is where it's in Lakeland, and you go down County Line Road, the only way they let you in, you'll get to a point on the right-hand side about 2 streets or so before you turn left to go on to the show area proper. It's on County Line Road. There's a beautiful house. There's a little basketball thing outside, as I remember. And it was there all by itself for so many years. And now in the back is just like 2, 3, 4, 5 of these 3 city block long warehouses, right? Can you imagine living there now? Jeez, I can't imagine it. So it must be horrible. Anyway, that's what Lakeland has become. But at any rate, that's where the event was, and that's where Sun and Fun is going to be. And I recommend you go to both, okay? And anything else. We had Redbird Migration there one year, too. So there's that. If you're going to stay at the Hilton Garden Inn. Bing, 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 tip of the day, if you can get in there. And I stayed at also a very good place called the Hyatt Place, Lakeland Center. It was excellent. Very good. Okay, now moving on. What happened there? Well, let's see. Brad Palmer was there. We had about 200 people, which is pretty good for an inaugural event. About 15 of those people were CFI Bootcamp alumni, people who had taken our course before. So it was nice to see that. A big contingency of them turned out, which means a lot of them are actual professional full-time flight instructors, which good on you. Okay, Brad Palmer was there. He's the manager of general aviation and the commercial GA safety of that AFA in Oak City, and he gave the keynote speech. And Everett Rochon, who is the manager of AFS 600, which is all of airman certification and training, was there, but he didn't speak. He usually speaks, but he was letting Brad speak, and he was going to take questions offline later. So that's what he did. So anyway, that was what happened there was, he was talking a lot about the Mosaic that was coming out that they had, which is modernization of special airworthiness certificate. He talked about that we're going to digital certificates. That'll be on your phone rather than a piece of plastic to carry in your wallet. I'm tired of those too. Can we just get rid of that? Do I need, it's like a checkbook. Do you have a checkbook? You balance the register every day. Then you use your E6B to do it. So, God, segued back into there, didn't we? Anyway. So I'm all in favor of that too. So anyway, there was that. And I have what I'm going to do, I have done already. I'm just getting it ready for print. Is I made pretty extensive notes of both days of the show, and so of the event, not the events, the speakers I heard, and the forums I went to, those sorts of things, panels. I made pretty good notes. They were mostly for myself, but I said these are good. I'll just give them to you. So I'm gonna send you an email if you're on our newsletter list or our Power Hour list or any of our lists. You're gonna get it. And it's going to come to you by email. And it's going to be a summary of that event in pretty good detail. I think you'll like that because there's a lot of good takeaways there. And I didn't figure the newsletter was, or the video would just take too long. So if we do it that way, then I think we're good. All right, so look for that. All right, now the format of the summit was, in the beginning, started at 8 o'clock. There was in the museum, which is where it was, we had one speaker. And then usually the second hour, you had another single speakers. Everybody heard that. There was nothing else to attend. And by the third, or certainly by the fourth, then there were 2 events that you could pick between. So one was in the Skylab room and the other was in the museum. And so we would pick what we wanted to hear about and then go there. So, and then at the end of the first day, it was a long day. So they gave us lunches was included, which is kind of fun. And they also gave us dinner. And the dinner was actually quite good. The lunch was quite good and the dinner was also really quite good. And then at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock, then, or 7 o'clock, I guess it was. So dinner started at 6. At 7, then John and Martha gave a talk about basically being in business and running a business. And I thought that was really good. In fact, they have a book out called Lift, and it was inspiring enough for me that I said, I gotta see what that more they have to say about this. So I bought that. That's a little Kindle book. It's $10, so you should get it if you're thinking about business. I think so far I've read about a little more than half of it, and I'm like, well, there's some things in here I think I know most of it, but there's some things in here that are good takeaways, so not bad, okay? So there's that. Everything concluded by 8:30. So it's kind of a long day, and then we have to get up and be at the show again at 8 o'clock the next day. The second day was the same format, except for it ended at 4, and there was no subsequent dinner, but they did provide lunch that day. The fee to attend was about $310, depending on your membership status, and most people, if you bought a membership to NAFI, it reduced the price enough to pay it. And for the membership, there's no reason not to do that, plus it increased NAFI's membership, so that's all right. So in the end, what I thought was, it was, for me personally, it wasn't, I don't think as an individual I would go again unless I was presenting. I didn't feel that what I got out of it was stuff that mostly I knew, but there were some things there that were interesting. And I think if I just had those video recordings, that would be fine. The networking opportunities were okay. I mean, I spoke with people that I know. I know a lot of people. And so they knew me, and so that was interesting. And they all asked why I wasn't presenting, and I said, well, it's not my time for this. I said I really wanted to be an attendee here, play that role, and then see if I really wanted to do a presentation there. If it's something that that I felt my content or what I do would be good fit, and it was. There were things in there that would be fine for me to have done. So anyway, there's that. But as a company, it was a good decision because. We need to be seen and heard, and people need to know we're around. And the serious players are always the players that spend money to go to conferences and trade shows and make an appearance and then try to participate if it makes sense, right? So, like, for example, I give speeches or talks or presentations at Redbird Migration, Sun and Fun, EAA, Oshkosh, give presentations, and basically anywhere they'll have me that I know. So other places, and I do odds and ends around the country, various places that want me to talk or something. I'm fine to do things like that. But anyway, as a company, it was a decision. It was good. And so anyway, if you're a new CFI, though, I'd be all over that because there were a lot of people to talk to that are really seasoned people about running your business. There's a lot of good information there, and it was good for a new CFI or a CFI wanting to mentor other people. I think that was also a good fit. And so then. And then I get to meet really knowledgeable people and listen to them. And, that's Gary Reeves. Hi, Gary, GPS, guy in the pink shirt, GPS, Reeves. And Ed Wishmeyer, who's an amazing speaker about all things aerodynamic and training outside the envelope. So he's also very good. Know him, and we've talked many times, and I've heard him speak many times. And those two people are worth it. Well, more than those two people, but in terms of the people who I know well-ish, then those two people are the people. Okay, now let's talk about SAFE, and let's talk about a new topic. They have a new mentoring program. So they just put together a mentoring Facebook group for new instructors, and also for instructors who want to do mentoring. And there's, last I checked, which is this morning, which is October the 30th, just in time for the newsletter, huh? There were 275 people in the group. Of those, 30 are mentor CFI, so I'm one of them. So if you want to connect with me, that's a nice place to do that. And that advice and everything we would do in there is our contributions with SAFE, so we're not going to charge you anything within that space. So if you have some questions to ask, whatever, there's plenty of people in there that can help you out, including myself. So the interesting thing, the reason SAFE did it was they wanted to do their CFI Pro program, which is fine. And the basic idea was that we were creating CFIs, and because of the way we test them, which is the FAA is interested in making sure you can fly safely from the right seat, and then the DP is interested that you can critique a flight maneuver or a ground session or whatever. But in the reality, we really don't train people to fly that way. Yes, you have to be competent in the right seat. That's true. But on the other side, we let you make mistakes. We're not constantly trying to fix something. But on a check ride and preparing for it, we have to teach you how to fix everything. So when the DP makes a mistake, or you explain it, right? So this is what you do. And even though you wouldn't necessarily do that in the airplane that way, you would let the student make mistakes, learn from their own mistakes, see if they can fix it. And if they can't, take control, demonstrate again, or show things again, or scrub it and do something different, right? So there's a lot of disconnects. And we say we don't have a residency like medical school. We don't have a residency program. So it means that our first 5 students are a residency, and God help them, right? The result and the time and the wasted time and the wasted instruction that goes on. But what else can we do? That person's going to pay a lot to get their certificate, probably a lot more than take that same instructor 5 years later, and you'll see a whole different thing. So this was sort of like to bridge the gap, help bridge that gap, right? And I think that's an amazing piece of work on their part, and I think that's good. So then more on with that, we have a bunch of CFIs, 30-some thousand, 40, whatever, many, about that number. And then of the active ones, about 8,000. So the active means you recommended at least one person for a practical test within your expiration of your CFI, which is 2 years. That's considered active. And of those active CFIs, 6,000 of them, 2/3 or more, have been teaching for less than 1 year. Wow. Now I wonder why the pass rate is. I'm not saying new CFIs are bad, but the CFI who doesn't have the CFI yet, so the day before the check ride, you don't have your CFI certificate, right? No. And so you can't do anything. Can't really teach anybody, can't recommend anybody. The very next day you pass your check ride, you know about 0.0001% more than you knew the day before, yet now you can do all that, right? So, but the thing you cannot buy, which you can buy training all day long, but you can't buy experience. And this is the thing that just shoots it right in the head, because that's the question that no one can answer, right? Like for everything. So if you go, I want to fly the Gulfstream 650 ER. Well, how much time do you have? 250 hours? That's not a big enough barrier to entry, right? So you need, what do you need? Yeah, you need more hours, but you need experience. What other kind of jets have you flown? So experience is always in the way. How do I get the experience? Well, by getting the experience. There's no other way to do it. So that's the issue. And so we have the same thing with the flight instructor, except for in this case, we now have a mechanism or a way to be able to connect people with other people or ask questions and get them answered as you go. So I think that's a good thing. And I think we should put our hats off to SAFE and say thanks for doing that. And I'm happy to be in that program. Okay, so that's what that is. I'm just gonna take a look and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, that's basically it. So you can go over to Facebook and find SAFE there, their mentoring group. And Dorothy Schick runs that, and also Michael Phillips. And you can't have picked 2 better people to moderate that forum. They're excellent. So anyway, tap into that. Okay, next little article is me. I did not get inducted into the Flight Instructor Hall of Fame. Okay, but I was in the top 3. That means I at least got a bronze medal. Whoo, that made me feel good, right? Like my friend, he's the musical director. He was a Tony nominee. And I'm like, nominee? He said, yeah, that hurt. That stings, right? That really stings, but this didn't sting. The person who beat me and beat the rest of us was super qualified. Excellent choice. So no problem with that. But I was in the top 3, which is kind of cool. They sent me an email about that, which I thought they didn't have to do that. It was kind of interesting. And they said, because of that, you're automatically entered next year. So I'm going to win next year. Maybe. There'll probably be someone better. There always is, right? There's always someone better. But just running and, getting in the top 3, that's how I can always put it at the bottom of my resume. Top 3, right? A bronze medal at least. I don't know if I got a silver or not, but I definitely got a bronze. Okay, so that's that. So next year, if you clicked, you nominated me or helped with that process, thanks for that. You'll have another opportunity to do that next year, Nick will ensure that happens somehow, some way. He wants to do all that. I'm okay with it. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? But I'm not the driving force behind that. Okay, the last thing we need to talk about is, should you train for your CFI in a round gauge or glass cockpit? Okay, so now I'm going to tell you. In the next few minutes, we'll develop up what makes sense. So if you train at a school and you're going to work at that school, or we're going to work, and that school does not have glass cockpit at all, they have nothing, no G1000, no 2G5s, no whatever they might have, right? There's no reason for you to do it because with the equipment you're going to fly is not available to you. So there's no reason to do it. If you fly at a place that has a mixed fleet, then you might want to do it if you don't have any G1000 time. So basically I'm talking about, let me set the stage here. I'm talking about a person who is a round gauge pilot, does not fly the glass stuff yet, maybe just for flight, right? But not really the G1000. Now let's pick the G1000 and stick on that point. That'll make this crystal clear. So then maybe now you're going to work at a school that has a mixed fleet. And so you have the opportunity to train in round gauges only, or you could train in the G1000 and round gauges, and that would increase your opportunities to fly and to charge money and to build time and to do whatever it might be, right? So if that's the case, then I'm going to encourage you to do your CFI in the G1000 if you're training at that school, right? And there's a good reason for that. So what's the reason? He says, Mike, it's a lot more expensive, right? So imagine you got about $180, $170 an hour. I'll just pick numbers that I know. S model 172 round gauge, about 170, 180, something like that. G1000, 220 to 240 in this region, sometimes a little less, but they're around to something, right? So there's a delta there, say 180, 90, 110, 20, 30, $60 an hour, about, between the G1000 airplane and the round gauge. And you're going to put between 10 hours to 15 hours in a Part 61 school. 141 you'll spend more, but in general it's 25 hours. 141 is required. It's too much, by the way, right? But if you're like most people going through this, then what you're going to do is you're going to start off, and then you'll get to your CFI, and you'll have a decision to make as to what you want to train in. And typically people want to look for the cheapest option they can find, but this may not be the smartest thing. Okay, so I told you the difference is about $60 an hour, right? Okay, so $60, let's say, times 10 or 15 is $900, $600 to $900. That's how much extra you're going to pay to have chosen the G1000, right? The training is going to be the same, basically. So, but when you're done, if you just do the round gauge and you go back to the school as a mixed fleet, you're going to have to get checked out in the G1000, aren't you? And when you get checked out, it's going to take between 3 and 5 hours. So that's at full rate, $240 an hour that you didn't anticipate you're going to need to spend because you weren't thinking about it, right? So if you took 10 hours, you already won because you're already checked out in the G1000 after 10 hours in it as initial CFI training, right? Now you're going to spend $640, $660, $600 more dollars to get checked out and only have 3 hours in the G1000. You already have how much time in a 172 S model? You don't need any more of that. You have plenty enough of that to be comfortable teaching someone. You don't have any G1000 time. Here's your opportunity to get it at a difference of 60. You're paying 180 anyway. You're paying a difference of $60 an hour instead of $240 or $220 an hour that you're going to pay in transition training. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I used to say in the old days. The class calendars are up except for the Las Vegas location. That's the only thing that's not on the calendar yet, but that will be in January. And that's going to be at sometime in January. We haven't decided when. That'll be at Chenault Flying Service in North Las Vegas. So that will be on the calendar soon enough, and you can register through us or them. If you're going to register under Part 141, you need to register through them. So we know you're a 141 student. We teach that under their 141 certificate, and that's good for using VA benefits and using all that through them. And then we just teach the class. We match up our syllabus to theirs, and it does a really good job. Nice location. They use all diamond DA40s and DA20s. They're good. So top-notch organization, I have to say. So there's that. And you can stay in Las Vegas. Who doesn't? Yeah, when you tell whoever, he says, I have to go to Las Vegas. I have to. As opposed to I'm going for a bachelor party, I'm going for a wedding. I have to go to Las Vegas to get this career started. There you go. You got a great excuse now, right? So I'm going to run those probably once a quarter. So there's that. Then in terms of the Power Hour, which is a 1 hour live webinar we do every week. We've done 156 of them. So this will be 157th show coming up on this Saturday or Saturdays. You go to our website, CFIBootcamp.com. There's a big red bar at the top. Click it, join. You'll get emails and you get access to that. Those are free to you, so you don't have to pay anything for them. And there's for the live show, that is. Okay, and then last couple things then to settle up on is we have a CFI class coming up in November. We've got 4 or 5 in there, maybe a little more. It's in Opelika. You can join remote or you can join in person. And that still seats available there. We have a in-person class and remote in Palo Alto coming up in December. It's December like the 4th, around that, or 5th, I think it is. I think it's the 5th. So around there. It's right, you can look on the calendar, and that's for a week. So that's the classes we have coming up. And that's all I've got to say to you. If you want a paper or PDF copy of this newsletter, then go to CFIBootcamp.com and join the newsletter list there, and you'll get that. And that's all I've got for this week, and thanks for listening to Flight Training the Way I See It.